Parmenides of Elea. Fragments on the Diels-Kran System. Translation by Robin Waterfield. Testimonium 28. For Parmenides would not agree with anything unless it seemed necessary, whereas his predecessors used to come up with unsubstantiated assertions. From Simplicius's commentary on Aristotle's Physics. Fragment One. My carriage was drawn by the mares which carried me to the limits of my heart's desire. They took me and set me on the renowned way of the deity, which takes a man of knowledge unharmed through all. There I rode, for there the much prompted mares were carrying me, straining at the carriage, and maidens were guiding my way. The axle in its nave screeched like a pipe and glowed red hot, for the two wheels on either side were whirling and urging it on, thanks to the haste with which the maiden daughters of the sun drove the carriage, having left the abode of night and entered the light. They pushed the veils off their heads with their hands. There stand the gates of the paths of night and day, and a lintel and threshold of stone enclose them round about. The gates are of ether, and they fill the huge frame of the gate, and vengeful justice controls the alternating locks. The maidens spoke soft and beguiling words to Lady Justice, and cunningly persuaded her to take the pin quickly out of the lock and pull it away from the gates for them. The gates opened wide, creating a yawning gap through the frame, as one and then the other turned in their sockets the bronze pivots which were fastened to them with nails and rivets. Then the maidens steered the carriage and the horses straight through the gates and down the road. The goddess received me kindly. Taking in her hand my right hand, she spoke and addressed me with these words: "Young man, you have reached my abode as a companion of immortal charioteers, and of the mares which carry you. You are welcome. It was no ill fate that prompted you to travel this way, which is indeed far from mortal men, beyond their beaten paths. No, it was right and justice. You must learn everything, both the steady heart of well-rounded truth and the beliefs of mortals in which there is no true trust. Still you shall learn them too, and come to see how beliefs must exist in an acceptable form, all-pervasive as they altogether are." Pieced together from Sextus Empiricus against the Professors. Fragment 5. The point from which I start is common, for there shall I return again. From Proclus's commentary on Plato's Parmenides. Fragment 2. Come then, I will tell you, and do you for your part listen to my tale, and pass it on, of those ways of seeking which alone can be thought of. There is the way that it is, and it cannot not be. This is the path of trust, for truth attends it. Then there is the way that it is not, and that it must not be. This, as I show you, is an altogether misguided route, for you may not know what is not. There is no end to it, nor may you tell of it. Pieced together from Proclus's commentary on Plato's Timaeus and Simplicius's commentary on Aristotle's Physics. Fragment 3. For the same thing both can be thought and can be. From Clement's Miscellanies. Fragment 6. It must be that what can be spoken and thought is, for it is there for being, and there is no such thing as nothing. These are the guidelines I suggest for you, for I shall start my exposition to you first with this way of seeking, and then go on to the one on which mortals knowing nothing stray, two-headed, for confusion in their breasts leads astray their thinking. On this way they journey, deaf and blind, bewildered, indecisive herds, in whose thinking being and not being are the same, and yet not the same. For all of them, the path turns back on itself. Pieced together from Simplicius's commentary on Aristotle's Physics. Fragment 4. By thinking Gaze unshaken on things which, though absent, are present. For thinking will not sever what is from clinging to what is, whether it is scattered at random everywhere throughout my composition, or whether it comes together. From Clement's Miscellanies. Fragment 7. For never shall this be overcome, so that things that are not are. You should restrain your thinking from this way of seeking, and do not let habit compel you along this well-tried path, to wield the aimless eye and noise-filled ear and tongue, but use reason to come to a decision on the contentious test I have announced. Pieced together from Plato's Sophist and Sextus Empiricus's Against the Professors. Fragment 8. Now only the one tale remains of the way that it is. On this way, there are very many signs indicating that what is unborn and imperishable, entire, alone of its kind, unshaken and complete. It was not once, nor will it be, since it is now, altogether single and continuous. For what birth could you seek for it? How and from what did it grow? Neither will I allow you to say or to think that it grew from what is not, for that it is not cannot be spoken or thought. Also, what need could have impelled it to arise later or sooner, if it sprang from an origin in nothing? And so, it should either entirely be or not be at all. Nor ever will the power of trust allow that from what is, it becomes something other than itself. That is why justice has not freed it, relaxing the grip of her fetters, either to be born or to perish. No, she holds it fast. The decision on these matters depends on this: it is or it is not. And it has been decided, as was necessary, to leave the one way unthought and nameless as no real way, and that the other truly is a way and is truth-bearing. And how could what is be hereafter? How could it have been? If it came to be, it is not. And likewise, if it will be some time in the future. Thus birth has been extinguished and perishing made inconceivable. Nor can it be divided, since all alike it is. Nor is there more of it here and an inferior amount of it elsewhere, which would restrain it from cohering. But it is all full of what is. And so it is all coherent, for what is in contact with what is. Now, changeless within the limits of great bonds, it is without beginning and without end. Since birth and perishing have been driven far off, and true trust has cast them away, it stays in the same state and in the same place, lying by itself, and so it stays firmly as it is, for mighty necessity holds it in the bonds of a limit which restrains it all about, because it is not lawful for what is to be incomplete. For there is no lack in it. If there were, it would lack everything. The same thing both can be thought and is that which enables thinking. For you will not find thinking apart from what is, on which it depends for its expression. For apart from what is, nothing else either is or will be, since what is what fate bound to be entire and changeless. Therefore all those things which mortal men, trusting in their true reality, have proposed are no more than names, both birth and perishing, both being and not being, change of place, and alteration of bright coloring. Now, since there is a last limit, what is complete. From every side, like the body of a well-rounded sphere, everywhere of equal intensity from the center. For it must not be somewhat greater in one part and somewhat smaller in another. For first, there is no such thing as what is not, to stop what is from joining up with itself, and second, it is impossible for what is to be more here and less there than what is, since it all inviolably is. For from every direction it is equal to itself, and meets with limits. Here I end what I have to tell you of trustworthy arguments and thinking about reality. From this point onward, learn mortal beliefs, listening to words which, though composed, will be lies. For they proposed in their minds to name two forms, one of which should not be named. This is where they went wrong. They selected things oppositely configured and attributed to them features distinct from one another. To the one form, the bright fire of flame, which is gentle, very light, and in every way the same as itself, but not the same as the other. This too is self-consistent in the opposite manner, as impenetrable night, a dense and heavy body. I tell you this way of composing things, in all its plausibility, so that never shall any mortal man outstrip you in judgment. Pieced together from Simplicius's commentary on Aristotle's Physics. Testimonium 25. Some of them, earlier philosophers, did away with generation and destruction altogether, on the grounds that nothing that is generated or destroyed, but only seems to us to be generated or destroyed. This is the view of Melissus, Parmenides, and so on. Even if basically they argue well, we have to regard their arguments as not relevant to science as such, since the existence of things which are not liable to generation or to change in general is more properly a question dealt with by a different discipline, not natural science, but a prior form of study. However, because they assume the existence of nothing other than what is accessible to the senses, and because they were the first to appreciate that there must be unchanging entities, if recognition and knowledge are to exist, they transferred arguments proper to the higher form of study from thereon to sensible things. From Aristotle's On the Heavens, Fragment 8, Socrates speaking. But I was in danger of forgetting the other side to the controversy, Theodorus, the assertion that unique and unchanging is that for which as a whole there is the name to be, and all the other propositions which people like Melissus and Parmenides maintain, and which contradict the former theory of perpetual flux and change, that all is one, and that this oneness is fixed within itself, having no space in which to change or move. From Plato's Theaetetus. Fragment 9. Now since light and night have been given all names, and been predicated of this and that in accordance with their powers, everything is full of light and dark night at once, and of both equally, since neither of them contains what is not. From Simplicius's commentary on Aristotle's Physics. Fragment 19. And so these things came into being thanks to belief, and are now, and in time to come will end when their nourishment is complete. Men proposed names for each thing to distinguish them. From Simplicius's commentary on Aristotle's On the Heavens.